Let's see. There it is. Yes, yes. So, I got back about 2 hours ago from Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, which is a movie adaptation of the first book of a novel trilogy that I was not really familiar with. Just like Nanny McPhee or meets Harry Potter, basically. Uh, uh, Kind of been done, but I'm sure the Peregrine people will freak out when I said that. Just no, it totally is. Uh, but yeah, Wizards at Hogwarts. It's sort of like X-Men meets Harry Potter meets Nanny McPhee. They have X-Men powers. They have a pyrokinetic one. They have one that floats or flies effectively. They and can breathe underwater and stuff, a little like Aquaman kind of. They have what, strong one and a one that has a weird mutation that allows her to eat behind her head, mouth. There's yeah. So it's the weird little story. I already watched the Stone Gremlins review of the movie before seeing it. And, was giving away some of the plot points. Probably wasn't a good idea, but yeah, I saw it. It was okay. It's not great. The critics gave it about 65% of Rotten Tomatoes, something like that. Yeah, I would agree with them in this case. The Tim Burton, you get what you pay for. There's a guy very much like Sid from Toy Story in it who can reanimate dead things or animate dead things. In the case of Sid, though, he had made toy monsters, so this is a little different. But he does animate toys to fight each other and bad guys. And at one point, a skeleton army. So yeah, it's a creepy children's book, Halloween-y kind of thing idea. The plot spoilers, plot points. Son does it. The story centers on a strange young man who is about 16 or so, and is working at a dead-end job, and he goes to visit his grandfather. At which point he finds that his grandfather has been murdered, his eyes plucked out. Nobody really mentions why that's going on, or can see that, or something. But he's traumatized, so he finds his grandfather's old stuff, and then concludes that, well, earlier they figured the grandfather had dementia because he kept talking about this weird orphanage back in the 40s that he visited, when apparently he was in his late teens, and then that other things happened to him there, and he lived there in this weird orphanage. This spurs on the kid to attend a psychologist, and then eventually them to send him to this island where the orphanage is. He finds the orphanage has been destroyed. His father doesn't want him to go back there, but he keeps sneaking out to go back there. Eventually ending up going through a time portal. They call it a loop. It's a wormhole into another reality where, in this reality, the orphanage still exists, and he's able to meet the peculiar children and the Peregrine Falcon lady that turns into a woman, a mistress, headmistress with a big pipe. I kept thinking while watching this movie, yes, and then she died of lung cancer from using a pipe. Actually, maybe that pipe had pipe weed in it. I think she might have been. She might actually be. There might be a little Lord of the Rings in this. It might be that it was actually pipe weed. Yeah, she may be fine. Just really high. Yeah, maybe he was just stoned. He's like on the island. He's like I'm totally seeing these children in this bombed out orphanage. And then the caretaker guy is all like, no, he wandered into a field of strange mushrooms that grow all over the island. He fell on them, and somehow they got into his mouth, and he got high like a motherfucker. He was so high, he was stoned, really stoned. Then he went sheep tipping with his friends. But yes, apparently there's these bad guys that only peculiars can see that are running around, and they want to kill people and take children's eyes, which is really gross. And Samuel L. Jackson is in it eventually, chewing scenery. I won't give that away. He's one of the bad guys. I'm not going to say which one. There's he's essentially playing the villain that he played as the octopus in The Shadow. That's not a good sign. But in this movie, it works a little better because in the books, he's not supposed to be from what I've read up on the books, just briefly, synopsis, he's not supposed to be unseen. He's there. So unlike the octopus, which they ruined in the Spirit movie, the Spirit is what I'm thinking of. He's playing a character that's supposed to do what he's doing in the movie. Unfortunately, the movie does get some stuff really wrong. Yeah, I don't know if Stone Gremlins touched on this, but they've mixed up all the characters. All of them. The only thing they kind of got right was Mrs. Peregrine, kind of. That's why it's so confusing about the time loops and everything. And the other stuff and the characters is they mixed them up. I don't know why they did. They made faithful adaptations of Harry Potter in the past. Like, why did they get this Okay, first of all, the hero is 16 years old, roughly, in the books. He's not quite with it. The paradox that is the arc of the story, I don't want to give that away with the grandfather. Whether he lives or dies or what, maybe they can stop it, maybe not. Back to the Future type of thing. There's a hint. But yeah, there's a hint. There's going to be some spoilers because there kind of has to be. Yeah, all that is a little different in the book. The character's a little different. The books were originally written is the author took these old photographs and sort of wrote narratives for them into a story. So he sort of made a story into this circus kind of freak kind of thing into a book series, trilogy. But yeah, they're old photographs, so it's a storybook kind of thing. Just messing with old photos. Sort of like Time Life meets Harry Potter meets X-Men. Yeah, many things going on. But yeah, so yeah, the stuff they got wrong, and this is really annoying probably to the fans of the books. I haven't read them, but the fans are annoyed. They got the girl wrong, and they got the guy wrong, and they got the other guy wrong, and they got just about everybody wrong. Okay, yeah. Okay, the dead kid they kind of get right, who gets animated at one point, because they got a reanimator guy there. They kind of got him right, but kind of not. He's supposed to be the brother of the strongman girl. That's the little kid that has power. They made her younger in the movie than she actually is in the story. Yeah, which is kind of odd. Because they wanted to switch the love interests around. In doing so, created a bizarre triangle with the sort of a quadra. It's not even a triangle. It's sort of a square, quadrilateral, whereas the fire girl and the floaty girl both liked the grandfather when he was around, Abe, but now they fall for the grandson who shows up as 16 like the grandfather was, because they're in a time loop. See this? It's 1943 to them over and over and over again for like 80 years. Yeah, so that's what's going on. So in their dimension, where they are in their dimension. Stone Gremlins was completely confused about that. And the movie does explain that, actually, if they were paying attention. The time loop was set for the 40s. That's all you need to know. So in this bubble in time, they're in the 40s. So when he goes back into time, same day over and over again, a bit like in Alice in Wonderland with the Mad Tea Party, going over and over again. Of course they got Tim Burton directed. Of course they did. And yes, he gets some of it really, really wrong, because the floaty girl in the book is 8. And there can't be a love interest with the 16-year-old and 8-year-old in the book. So even though, yeah, they're supposed to be older because it's the 40s and now it's 2016, in the book they say they're in their 70s and 80s, but no, they're 8. So floaty girl is a little girl. Floaty girl is like a little girl. They mixed her up with 2 other characters because they wanted to set up this love triangle that did not exist in the book. The only love interest in the book was the pyrokinetic fire girl. And she liked the dude who was messing with the reanimation, and which they kind of harp on a little bit and set them up later. But no, that's not what happened in the book. That was a mess. And so you have the kid Jake. He becomes a love interest of the blonde floaty girl, because in this movie's universe, she's 16. They aged her 6 years and decided to make her the love interest. All they had to do was not have a love angle. It didn't need one. This movie really, really did not need one, because you just have the 3 guys, 2 guys and the girl, and everyone else that's younger. That's all it should have been. They didn't need to go there. I'm not saying that all movies shouldn't have a love angle. I'm saying that this movie was actually hampered by having one, where it didn't need it. It wasn't in the book. So they were just kind of jealous as friends, more or less, in the novel. There was a little bit of pairing, but yeah, with the 15, 16-year-old fire girl, not the other one. So yeah. They got that completely. Yeah, and the ship raising up and whatever. There's nothing about that in the summary, but the movie put that in there. Maybe they have a ship later on. But yeah, that was not the best part. The most annoying part was that they got the floaty girl wrong. And just to set up a story that they could have fixed easily by saying, "Oh, this can't happen." These 2 characters, and the lead looks like my nephew, which is funny. But yeah, they could have cast him. So peculiar children, and that's probably confusing a lot of the critics because they haven't read the books. But so it's not that great of a book series either. It's okay, but the story is fairly straightforward as to who everybody is. The other one is a pyrokinetic one, and they sort of mix the powers up and stuff, because, the lighter than air one apparently has some kind of hydrogen power. She's able to, shoot, fire, hydrogen. She's the littler one. And then there's the other one that has other powers that are similar kinetic powers. That's the one that's the love interest, because she's older. She's old enough to be dating Jake, and possibly the crazy dude that's in his lab. But yeah, the eyeballs thing. I don't know if that's in the book. I didn't read that in the summary. I probably should read it. It's more in depth. But yeah, that was kind of weird. It's probably Tim Burton. I can't be sure. That might not be, but it probably is. Tim Burton throws a lot of weird imagery in here because he's Tim Burton. Like when he did a Planet of the Apes movie in 2001. Oh boy. So yeah, he doesn't completely ruin it. He doesn't do like he did with Alice in Wonderland and sort of get half of it wrong just because he wants to be weird. I'm thinking he was thinking, oh, I want, a goth girl and a blonde girl, to be in my movie because I like goth. Goth is cool. Surprised she didn't have stripy socks. Somebody did in there, actually. But yeah. And there's as the stone, there's a plot device in there that there's the twins. They're these 2 characters that have the power to turn your enemy into stone. Now, they don't utilize them hardly at all, which the stone gremlin people also touched on. It's like if you have a pair of people with the power to turn your enemy into stone, you use them first, and you freeze everybody into stone, and they die. The end. No more bad guys. They're all gone. There's a lot of weird logic jumps in it, and not just time warps, but there's a lot of other stuff they could harp on. They could harp on why are the creatures doing what they're doing and they can't be seen? So how, if they couldn't be seen, what are they doing? Paradox. If the grandfather's warning is similar to that of Doc Brown in Back to the Future, go back and prevent something from happening or whatever, or don't change the timeline or whatever, then wouldn't the other timeline, if it was changed, wouldn't that mean that the main character, Jake, would be jumping into another timeline where events didn't happen. It creates a tremendous can of worms. And then he would never go back in the first place. It would be interview. Well, if he's jumping between universes, he would never go back to his own universe. So that kind of makes sense. But the time warp stuff was not that confusing to me. It was just that in the movie they needed to be a little more, I guess, they go to the 40s and the 2000s. They only go to one time period, really. So that's good. They'd gone like Doctor Who or something. It would have been confusing. But yeah, they got the girls wrong. They got the guys wrong. They sort of got the motivations wrong. And then, how are they going to do, like, the other two books in which they go after yet another bad guy? Because, of course, there's another bad guy. And then the third one, they go after a third bad guy, and essentially the kid, like has wings or something and becomes like an angel or something? What the hell? Okay. Yeah. What? Was he a Time Lord or? Well, lead shoes would not work, incidentally. Not only that, she'd have lead poisoning. Her power is like helium or hydrogen. Should be hydrogen. More interesting in the book if it's hydrogen. I think that's what it was. She had hydrogen power so she could burn things too. Because hydrogen would explode. So yeah. So she's basically a floating Hindenburg waiting to explode. Ooh, tasteless joke. And this is the 40s, so, But yeah, that's kind of the thing. She should have been fat then. Just to be messed up. No, she was skinny. But yeah, they got her wrong. They got the ages mixed up. They didn't quite get the bad guy right. And why is it that all these recent movies, I think the 3 or 4 recent movies this time around, this summer, where the villain ends up being the black guy? I think the black people should complain. Why is one of the villains the black guy in this? What the? Why does the bad guy have to be the black dude? It's like, that's kind of messed up. He was in that Star Trek movie too. There's an evil black guy in it. Like, what? Okay, he looked like a lizard, but then he turned into a black guy in that movie. So it's like, what's the deal? Anyway, so Home for Peculiar Children. Yeah. The other two books, I guess, are different, where they go on missions and stuff. But yeah, so he ends up being special. It's all about a kid being special. That's the essence of anything like fantasy, like X-Men or Harry Potter or the idea, a dystopian novel. That whole thing, a dystopian story. I've been over that. The whole basis is that our heroes are supposed to be teenagers coping with growing up. And by doing so, they're endowed with special powers that enable them to do that, or stay that way, or whatever. This story actually advocates staying that way for a while, which is kind of strange. Sort of a Peter Pan type of thing going on. But yeah, so yeah, the premise is that the lead is special in some way, such as Katniss in the Hunger Games, or Harry Potter in Harry Potter, or Jake in this movie, or the lead in the Maze Runner, or what kind of thing. The fantasy idea that the teenage lead in X-Men, Teenage Warhead from February. That one, but yeah, so the idea of them being peculiar or special or mutants or whatever, the X-Men people would be all over this story, having powers and stuff. One of the bad guys tries to freeze the fire chick, not figuring that she can get out of that. Yeah, because cold wouldn't make. Yeah, that would only freeze her outside. It doesn't work. Yeah. There were some moments where there were some fight lines there, but for the most part, the audience was fairly like, well, There were a few people in there, yeah. What else were they doing? Yeah. They seemed to like it. The previews were kind of banal. I forgot what most of them were. There was one, some kind of an action picture. Some kind of, like, period. Oh, yeah, there was this weird NASA movie. Apparently, not Sony, but someone else. Trying for the, trying to make The Help, but with NASA ladies. Which is like, what? Is that supposed to be the Jameson story? I'm not sure what's going on there, but they decided to have sassy black ladies that worked for NASA, the movie. That might have happened in the 60s, or maybe based on something, but I doubt they were sassy in the 60s, because I don't really think they could have gotten away with that. It's the 60s. They would have been just normal like everyone else, but then that wouldn't have made a movie. But yeah, they probably weren't sassy, because women did not sass off. Well, they did it in private back then, but it was a lot. It was a lot more. They were a lot more secretive. They didn't really do that. Yeah. So, but oh well. There was a lot of that preview made it look like they were going to end up like the lady in Ghostbusters and be all like, look how sassy I am. I'm sassy. It's like, no, that just doesn't work. In the 60s, they wouldn't. They do that now, but they wouldn't do it then. Yeah, all those Medea movies have made me think that. And the preview could just be kind of silly. So it might be a good movie. But yeah, it was a little odd that they'd be sassy in the 60s. Even The Help was kind of weird. It's like, no, they wouldn't be like that in the 60s. They would have been ostracized. Yeah. Wasn't like they were hippies or something. Anyway, so, yeah. And you have a floaty chick, and they got her hair wrong, too, because if it was the other one, she would have black hair. But, yeah, they got everything. They wanted to make her an older actress because they hired an older actress. They hired the actress from that Cinderella movie in it. So they wanted her to be the actress, Yeah. Oh yeah, there was another movie with Emma Stone movie coming out that had her and her probably current boyfriend in a movie, different movie, but it was a preview for that. I forget what it is. It was like, I'm gonna star with my current boyfriend movie. Yeah. It was like, okay, this is a vehicle for your relationship that is only on screen and probably afterward not going to mean anything. But oh well. But yeah, but yeah, Peculiar Children.